It's got 11 people on.
Nice.
But I'm gonna start letting these people in. I need one, you need one. Here. Where do you want to be sitting?
Or should it? Do you think it should be in front of the red wall? Is that the visual? And then we just kind of curve it off.
I think it's good to see the front.
Okay, if I can be seen, it's fine. And hers, I don't really hear them.
This one.
Yeah, for sure. Amazing.
Not yet.
And you guys should use visual on the barrel. Hi everyone, this is how I can start with college. The smart play, we're about to play.
You want to hustle and give me one of those desks? Okay. Sit down so I can get a visual here. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, Chris, sit down so I can.
You see my water bottle? Yeah. Just,
No, you can't. All right, I'm gonna start letting people in.
make sure you get stuff.
Boarding in progress.
Good morning.
It's making you right now?
Except for that, I want to be back sitting, I guess. You know, the ones with the fatal goes to casting. Fatal. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk to Mark.
Everybody should be on.
Thanks, Coach. How you guys doing?
What's going on, everyone?
Good
Can
to
you
have
guys hear?
Loud and clear. How you doing?
How you doing?
All good. It's all good. I'm glad to be getting this going. So
I want
here,
to
check.
go to Mount.
Ryan, you got mute, brother. There you go. He's trying to make it work with the little kids. But all right, awesome, man. I appreciate, like I said, appreciate you guys waking up at the crack of dawn. And yeah, so I'm Paul. We're North Jersey Volleyball Club. We're very unique in the fact that we only have one practice a week for 2 hours a week, and we also split with another team. So what that does is allow us to keep our prices under $1,000 for our kids, which is unheard of in North Jersey. The average is usually $3 to $5 grand a kid, and we're $800 a kid. So one of the things we really have to do with one 2 hour practice is maximize every single minute in the gym, and that's why we're here. So I appreciate you, brother.
Hey, no doubt. I'm glad. Yeah, starting off, for myself and then everybody who's listening, the biggest thing I always like to lead in with is like why people might want to listen type of situation. When I was coming up coaching wise, and even still now, if I get in front of a scenario where I'm like, I'm not sure why I would listen to this person, I think that serves a lot of value for people. So for those of you who don't know, background wise, I've had the opportunity to play with, coach with, and coach against some of the best passers, liberos, people who are out there. So when I was in college, I played with Mike Brinkley, who is a two-time NCAA champion as a libero. I spent some time with the national team. Played with and against Eric Shoji, who's the current men's national team libero. On the women's side, Justine Wong-Arantes actually began the program Center here at Libero College. She was working with us, and she's now an Olympic gold medalist as a passer, and so many people since then. So all the stuff you guys are going to hear comes from a combination of three things. So one, just sample size in the eye test. Over 15 years now of experience watching high-level passers, seeing what works, what doesn't work. Some of it comes from just biomechanics, what works best for the human body to be able to create balance and consistency and replicatable habits. And then the final thing is just where we are currently with the game. So just trying to stay present in terms of the way people serve now, the way people attack teams, how you're going to set up your offense, things like that. So as we go, there will obviously be a section for question and answers. If you guys have Q&As as we go, don't hesitate to ask. So if I'm explaining something or showing something, you guys have like an immediate question of like, oh, hey, how does that work? Or like, can you explain that again? Just flag it and we'll make sure to get that question answered for you. Okay. All right. So voice wise, how do we have this set up right now? Is it so that everybody has their speaker on and ability to speak, or Paul, you're the only one who has the volume? What's the situation?
No, I heard Brian before. I think everybody, yeah, I see people unmuting themselves. So I think we're good. So that people can just give a shout or, yeah, I see thumbs up. I think we're on okay on our side.
Okay, beautiful. Hi, young lady. Okay, so this right next to me is Hazel Allen. She is a current Division I libero. She's here for three reasons. One, to help with the demos as we get into them. Two, so she can continue to hone in on some of these concepts. And then three, so you guys can have, another perspective who's like playing literally live right now, going against servers to be able to go. So.
Hey guys, I'm Hazel. I'm from Alaska. I came here almost 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
Found these guys on Instagram and just hit them up and like took off from there. I played at Houston Christian University this past season and am going to play at Rome City Institute in the fall.
Congratulations, Hazel.
Okay, so jumping right into it. We have kind of a program over the next 5 weeks of things we're going to lead into. So I imagine a lot of you guys have notes sections and paper and things like that, which is great. So I'm going to kind of block out some things for you guys, and then you guys can just fill in as you want to go. So today we're going to talk about primary passing concepts. If you want to put that in your notes section or on your sheet or in your computer. So primary passing concepts, what this is essentially going to be is these are the things that are going to get used the most often. So as we go through the course, there's going to be some kind of secondary passing things we do as well, like different types of footwork, different types of angles, times where we would choose a different style of touch on the ball. But for right now, this is going to be like the meat of potatoes. Like this is what we see the most, this is what we need to know the best, that kind of thing. So the three sections that I want you guys to separate stuff into right now is, so after you write on your paper or in your notes section, primary passing concepts, I want you to have three sections and leave some space in between each one of them. So the first one will be feet / footwork. So whichever word you like. And then skip some lines. So if you're on paper, like skip 5 or 6 or 7 lines. If you're on your notes section, you'll be able to like enter down. So next one is going to be platform / hands. And then the final section is going to be IQ. So here, I'm going to give you guys the meat and potatoes right now of the things that we're going to want to know. And then you guys can ask questions, if you guys have them to go. So as a part of feet and footwork, the first thing that I want you guys to put down is 1-step moves, and then separate 3-step moves, separate 3-step knee drop, and then overhand face pass. And so that sounds like a hands and clap related thing, but it's going to be a style of footwork as well. So those 4 things are the moves that you're going to use the most frequently in our system. So 1-step moves, 3-step moves, which are also called 3-step shuffles, 3-step knee drops, and then overhand face pass. And then from the section of platform and hands, the things you guys can list out are one arm contact, full platform contact, outside of body angle. And then you guys can, the terminology typically uses midline, but we call it trapping between the knees. So midline passing, if that's familiar for you, which will be when your platform between your knees. Outside of body angles will be when your thumbs and arms are outside of your body. So those essentially, and then the overhead face pass again. So those are going to be the different styles that we utilize when it comes to passing. IQ wise, different situations right now that we're going to think about. So the first sentence you guys can put, which is essentially like a statement in question form. When to pass perfect. Then you guys can put down under that when to pass medium, and medium means somewhere between 6 and 12 feet from the net, and then avoiding out of system. So when to pass perfect, when to pass medium, and then avoiding out of system. Those are kind of the scenarios that we're going to look for. All right, so all that being said, before we get into the explanation and then some of the demonstrations of these, are there any very specific questions that you all have, you know, as coaches, as educators listening to this? Is there anything you guys are like, hey, here's the situation I run into with my team, or this is something I definitely want to make sure that we hit over the 5-week period, or anything like that?
So for me personally, the two things I really want to focus on, like Hazel, first of all, congratulations on all your success. That's incredible. But once upon a time, Hazel walked into the gym on day one and had no idea what serve receive was. So it's like, how do we get a kid that's walking into our gym at 12 years old from day one, never knowing volleyball, to Hazel, right? And obviously not every kid's going to go D1, but you get like, we need that. I'm looking for that wide range of serve receivers that don't know what the hell they're doing to, hey, we have somebody who's special. How can we get her? How can we get her looks at the college level, because she's that special. And two, so you know, beginning to end, beginners to advanced, and then also as well the drills that come alongside that. So that's kind of what I'm really hoping to get out of this, is because you've had such great coaches you've played against, worked with, such liberos you've played against and worked with. So you know, a little bit of everything is what I'm looking for. Coaches, what are you guys looking for?
I see Gianna in the chat. How can we teach backtracking to lines and defense? So when you ask that, if you would just want to throw a thumbs up on there, are you talking about how you go from your base position to getting back down a line to be able to make a play?
Gee, you can also unmute yourself and not be weird.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Just coming from base, because my 13s and 16s were constantly watching the ball drop to the back of the line. No matter how many times I was asking them to follow to the line, nobody was listening to me, and I don't know if that was because they don't understand the footwork for it.
So it's, for clarity, you're talking about serve receive, like when the ball's served near the line and then make you move toward it?
Serve receive, or just defense in general.
Okay, so being able to like make a decision on a ball that's near the line.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. I want to answer that one actually from jump. So here's the thing I talk to my athletes about the most frequently is this concept. So I'm about to like lay it out. And this is like, I had for reference, yesterday I trained Cole Power here at the facility, who's the starting libero for UC Irvine, who's ranked number 6 in the country for men's volleyball. And I was taking him through mostly defensive reps we did yesterday, but we finished the last 10 minutes of serve receive, and I was serving up on a bench, hitting like jump serve simulations, like with pretty decent pace. And the majority of them, he's like diming them, you know, as he should for the level he's at. But there was this one that hits my hand purposely by me, but to him, it looks kind of funky. And it kind of knuckles deep into the corner. So he thinks it's out off my hand. So he leaves it, and it ends up going into the corner. And afterwards, he has this big funny reaction that's like, oh, that was it, like this whole thing. And so it's something I think to myself all the time, that even at the highest level, one of the most important things in being a high level serve receptor is being able to make the decisions of what's in and what's out. And so literally I'll do drills with my groups or with my individuals where they have to practice this concept of tracking what's in and what's out. Because I heard this quote one time by this guy named Walt Kerr, who's a longtime coach in California. And he has 3 sons who played at a really high level, UCLA and other schools. And he used to say this thing of, if a ball's close and serve receive, you should leave it. Like, don't play it, because there's so many points that get wasted of people serving the ball out of bounds and athletes. And I actually tend to lean the other direction. Like at the time when I was younger, my first thought was, well, I wonder how many championships those guys have won, like with that mentality. And I never went back and looked, but I feel the opposite. My feeling is, one, we originally play volleyball so that we can touch the ball and not watch the ball go out of bounds, like back and forth, and have the ref blow the whistle. But 2, I feel like so many close games get decided on people being nervous or people being tentative when the ball gets near the line. So what I am about to say is like the statement that I would say to athletes. Unless you feel like the ball is 5 feet out of bounds, you should play it for now when you're young. And you should really learn this concept of, if there's even a question of if it's in, that means it's in, because there's 3 really mentalities that I've seen from athletes when it comes to playing balls that are close. Number 1 is some athletes will go, okay, I hope they serve out of bounds. And they're essentially preparing themselves to have to pass any ball that seems obviously in. And then if it gets close to the line, they're like, hoping it's out, and they hesitate. So they lose a little bit of focus mentally, which takes away from the passing percentage. Number 2, we see the athlete who's like a little overzealous and they're playing balls that are even like 5-10 feet out of bounds. And the coach is just like, oh my gosh, you're like literally giving away points because those balls are out of bounds, but they just want to touch it so bad, or their IQ isn't high enough, which I can appreciate. And the third one, which I see most frequently, is when athletes are in between. So they're making the decision of if it's in or out after the ball hits the server's hand. So they're in their serve receive and they're going, okay, here's my seam, here's what I'm going to play. And once I see this serve, I'm going to make a decision on how I'm going to play this. But my opinion is the best passer is going with this mentality of, okay, everything is in until I see differently. So I hope you guys can understand the difference there between, okay, let me make a decision after the ball's been served, if this is in or out, or what type of footwork I'm going to use, versus everything's in unless I see otherwise. And so with that mentality, it makes it a little bit easier to be consistent, stay locked in, stay focused on actually making passes, rather than having to make quick decisions. So for like a 13s or a 16s team, these kids are developing, for them to have to take on the pressure of making decisions after the ball's been served, usually when they play against a good server, they're going to lose that battle, as opposed to if their mentality to start is, okay, everything's in and I'm going to play everything unless the ball is like so obviously out that I almost can't touch it, and then I'm going to let it go type situation. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Yes, thank you.
And then drill wise for that, the 2 drills I like to use are literally, I'll just stand near the net with an athlete and they do the first round where they don't move their feet at all. It's just a visual reaction. So I'll like toss some balls that are near the sideline that are in, and I'll toss some that are out of bounds. And immediately, without them moving their feet, they just literally have to call like mine or out, mine or out. So they're getting that visual read. And it's like quick reps. So I'll go like 12 balls, 15 balls, where I'm literally just like throwing it and they're not even passing it. They're just working on like the visual of like, oh, immediately I see that's in, that's not in. And then we'll add in like the actual playing of it, where the next round I'll throw it and they have to make that same call, but actually go towards the line. But right now, out of you coaches, I'd be curious to know, has any one of you ever done a drill where you purposely practice putting some balls in the court and some balls outside of the court to get athletes to be able to understand what's in and what's out?
Never on purpose. When some free ball, some wash drills, I'll purposely chuck it at the back line, but I'm never purposely trying to keep it out. I'm trying to put it right on the line so that they have to chase it down.
Yeah, Coach Michelle, it sounds like you have. That's good. I think that's really valuable, especially for younger players. And like you guys said, you guys have a 2-hour practice, once a week. Some people might feel like it's not valuable time spent, but I would spend the 15 seconds to say, hey, we're going to do a quick cart right now where I'm having spinning some balls in, spinning some balls out, and you're having to make reads, and then we'll shag them up really quick or go get the balls, and then we'll go on to the next drill. I think one 15-second round or 20-second round of that once per week pays like really big dividends, because I've seen it in matches where athletes are making better calls when the ball's off the hand. So that to me is really worth it. So hopefully that answers that question. Anything else, coaches, that you guys feel like very interested in making sure we hit over these 5 weeks? Okay. All right. So to lead in, here's some concepts for the feet and kind of how we would work it up. So what I'm going to give you guys is a little bit of what to teach and then how to teach it. So what to teach service wise, I start every athlete with no exception. It doesn't matter if they're like day one beginner or if they're like full power, you know, walking into me already a Division I player. Every athlete starts off with what I call one-step moves. And so there's 4 generic directions that I send athletes. I used to send them 6 directions, but I've abbreviated it. The reason that I used to send 6 directions is because people generally have to move one of 6 directions. They're either going to go diagonally forward, one of the 2 ways, directly sideways laterally, or diagonally deep. And so whether they're taking 1 step, 19 steps, those are the 6 directions that you have to deal with. Very rarely are you moving literally straight or literally backwards. There's always some sort of angle you're creating. So I always start with the 1-step move, because that first step is what really gets athletes to understand the importance of the lead step. So lead step is a term that I use with athletes every day. And what it means is the first step of however many steps they're going to take. So where a lot of passers struggle is their first step. And I think most coaches know that. They're like, kids are picking up their track a little bit too late, or their feet are like doing road runner underneath them, and then they're having to dive or fall on the ground, or not even making it to where the ball isn't getting aced. So that lead step training is very important for me. And usually the range of that is somewhere between 2 inches and 24 inches. Now that sounds like a really big range, but I make sure athletes understand that from jump. So there's times where a ball is going to be served almost right at you. So a lot of athletes will ask me, what do I do if the ball's right at me? And I say, you take a rhythm step. What a rhythm step is so their body has that same exact feel of all the times that they pass, where there's either this da-da-da cadence or there's this da-da cadence, like right before they pass it. So the way that I equate it is, if I'm a basketball player and you guys watch basketball on TV, if somebody drives and then kicks it out to a 3-point shooter, a 3-point shooter doesn't catch the ball flat-footed and then jump and shoot. There's a rhythm to it. There's a step into catching the ball, or a jump stop. So volleyball passing is the same. You want passers to have rhythm when they pass the ball, so their body has this symmetrical cadence and it's familiar, so they have the touch. Same thing as hitting. Hitters don't just stand near the net and jump vertically and hit the ball. Like, there's a rhythm and a cadence to the approach. So that's the thing I try to get athletes to understand right away, whether they're beginner, whether they're advanced, or somewhere in between. The 1-step move teaches them how to track the lead step, and it starts to get them to understand rhythm. So how to teach the 1-step move. I'll start out with athletes, and this, we'll get to this when we get to hands, but right now for feet, I'll literally place 4 cones on the ground in a plus symbol. So I'll put those cones about 6 feet away from one another in like the shape of a plus. So for clarity, like the open spaces or the diagonals. And then I'll have them work on these 4 directions now that I trained, which is diagonally deep, open to the left, forward diagonally to the left, forward diagonally to the right, and diagonally deep to the right. And we'll demo this with Hazel today. So those 4 directions are how we start, and getting athletes to open their hips. And here's 3 keys that I talk to athletes about as they're working on this footwork. 1, maintaining their hip level. So that means not bouncing or having their body go up and then back down, and then for sure not down and back up. So like literally I'm acting like they have a book on top of their head, and they have to balance that book as they make these diagonal steps. How many of them? When I'm starting with an athlete, I'll have them go about 3 times each direction. So I'll have them go deep to the left 3 times, forward to the left 3 times, forward to the right. It depends on how much time we have, but 3 is a good number. It kind of sets that cadence in their mind of like, okay, I did it again. Okay, I've mastered it. And then from there, I'll start to point. So for example, after I've gone like deep there, forward there, deep there, then I'll start to point. So I'll put my hands up like this, and then I'll go deep to the left, or I'll go forward to the right, or forward to the right again, deep to the right, to start to get them to train that reaction. And so early on with the beginner kids, I'll tell them like, please be patient. Like, I want you to wait a full second before you actually step. So I'm going to point, and then you're going to wait, make sure like it processes in your mind, and then step, so that they're not practicing like false stepping or like bad habits. With athletes who are more advanced, I try to get them to go a little quicker, or maybe I'll add a tennis ball where I'll like lob a tennis ball and they have to like open up and catch it. So what I'm telling them early on, even though they don't have a ball yet, is they need to prepare to play the ball at the height of their belly button. The highest percentages of passes that go well are going to be played around the height of the belly button. So I preface them that when they play at a high level, there's going to be passes that they have to play near their shoulders. There's going to be passes that they have to kind of drop down and play at the height of their knee. But the most ideal pass or what they're going for, whether they're playing between their knees or playing outside of their knees, is trying to get the ball at the height of their belly button. So that's a great like tracking point for athletes if they're ever curious of like, because all of us as coaches have encountered the kid who like doesn't realize they don't bend their knees. You're like, bend, please, bend. Getting them to understand the height of the belly button concept and just ask themselves that question, like, is the ball at the height of your belly button? When you look down and freeze, like that's a simple way that has worked out really well for me. So after we go through one-step moves, we'll start to expand to 3-step moves. So on that how of one-step moves, like I said, 3 each direction, I'll probably do 2 rounds of that or 3 rounds of that if the kid's beginner. I'll do 1 or 2 rounds if the kid's a little bit more advanced. And a round is, okay, 3 each direction, that's 12 total moves, and then we might go again. So the 3-step move, I have them always set up with the tension on their inner thighs. So a lot of coaches will talk about this concept of like, get the weight on the balls of your feet or get the weight off your heels. When I talk to athletes, I talk to them about having the tension is the word I use on their inner thighs, their inner calves, and the inner arches of their feet. So all the tension is centered. And so what I don't want them to do is like bend their knees together, but I want their knees to stay over their toes and have the tension to be prepared on the inner thighs so they can push from the opposite direction. So for example, if they're going to move to the left, I would like for them to push from the right. If they're going to move to the right, I'd like them to push from the left. So it saves time from them having to pick up their foot and put it back down. So I talk to them about gliding and shifting rather than picking up and putting down. So we don't want them to pick their foot up and put it back down, although their feet are going to obviously pick up when they have to move. We want them to push from here to go here. So they're pushing from here to go here rather than picking this up and putting this down. So the 3-step move, that's really important. When we go those same diagonal directions, I'll have them go deep to the left first, just because I kind of treat it like a clock in my mind. So 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 10 o'clock. And so I'll have them go diagonally deep, 3-step shuffle. So the generic distance that I'll have them do between their feet, if you guys want to write this down, is I'll have them start with 18 inches between their feet. For a smaller kid, maybe it's a little less. For a bigger kid, maybe it's a little wider, but 18 is a great generic number. It's like 1.5 feet for kids who don't understand inches. So starting at 18 inches apart, after their first step, they should be about 24 inches apart. With their second step, they should be about 6 inches apart. The last step, they should go back to 18. So their feet, if you guys are watching my hand, should go 1, 2, 3. Like the first step creates the most space. Second step gets pretty close. Last step goes back to the original. So I say 18, or excuse me, I say start at 18. They're going to go 24, 6, 18. That's kind of what I'll say to them so they can understand that foot spacing and avoid crossing their feet. So that move, all 4 directions, for clarity, I do want them to open up their hips. So I get that question a lot. Like, should athletes like move backwards and try to get their body behind the ball? Or that's something you'll hear from a lot of old school teaching is like, get your body behind the ball, get your body behind the ball. There is a lot of value to get your body behind the ball. And I'm actually pretty old school with my teaching. But the difference between what I teach is I don't teach athletes, hey, we midline pass, or hey, we angle pass or outside of body pass. I teach you need to be able to do both. So there's situations where midlining is great. It's simple. You're trapping the ball, everything's in front of you, but you need to feel very comfortable when you have to play against these more challenging serves, playing the ball outside of your body and not hesitating. So we'll spend time on both. So 3-step shuffle, same cadence. I'll have them do about 3 diagonally deep to the left, 3 forward to the right, 3 forward to the left, and 3 diagonally deep to the right. And that same concept as before, I'll start to point. So I'll go, okay, we're going here. Okay, we're going there, we're going there, we're going there. And then they learn to react that way. For the beginner kids, I make them pause always. Like I really get them to understand this concept of don't rush. Like people like take themselves out of it all the time because they rush. So trying to wait, really valuable. For advanced kids, I try to get that reaction time going a little bit faster as long as the technique is clean. Again, making sure that they avoid bouncing is really important. So maintaining their hip level, okay? And then from the 3-step move, the final thing is trying to make sure they understand that, especially for the diagonally deep directions, they're going to probably play the ball outside of their body. That's not an always thing, but it's a 95% of the time thing. So just prepare that for them in their mind when you're seeing them practice these movements. Like, they should not have their arms like preparing to play the ball between their knees. Like, they need to understand this concept of the hips are going to open up and you're probably going to be shaping a pass. But we'll get to that, the hands and serve receive, or platform and hands. So the 3-step knee drop. Why the 3-step knee drop? We get this all the time from our athletes, and it frustrates them because it's probably one of the hardest moves to track. But this is the way that I explain it. If you can master a 3-step knee drop, regardless of your age and stage, all the rest of playing short balls is going to be really easy for you. So eventually in this, and you guys don't need to write this down right now, but eventually we're going to get into 16-ish type of serve receive moves. So there'll be all these short plays. It's like a 3-step knee drop, a 3-step even feed, a 3-step staggered stance, 4-step move, 5-step move, step dig dive. There's all these different moves that we teach athletes so that they have a full palette and a full bag. But the 3-step knee drop is a move that has 3 things in it. One, it allows you to make what's called a run play, if you guys want to write that down. So a 3-step knee drop is a run play. So the difference for me between shuffle plays and run plays are shuffle plays are where the feet will not cross. That's going to be the quickest from A to B. That's what we're using most of the time in serve receive, unless somebody's serving short the whole game or a team's game plan is to serve short. A run play is where our feet and ankles will cross and we're going to pump our arms. So run play is going to allow your body to move faster in a longer distance. Shuffle play is going to not move you as fast, but it'll help you be quicker from A to B in a short distance, if that makes sense. So a run play, it's very important that athletes learn how to do this, or else they're just going to get abused by people who serve short or people who tip. So a run play, we want to lead with the outside leg. So if a ball's to our left, we want to lead with the left. If a ball's to our right, we want to lead with the right. A lot of people ask that question, like, do we cross over? Like, I play beach volleyball. When we run down line shots, we do this, we do that. For clarity, if the ball's to our left, we want their left foot to go first. If the ball's to the right, we want their right foot to go first. Hazel's going to show you this. So with the run play, the 3-step knee drop, we want the first 2 steps for them to pump their arms. What that means is opposite arm, opposite leg. So when the left foot is forward, the right arm is forward. When the right foot is forward, the left arm is forward. So for the first 2 steps, they're going to pump their arms. And then on the last step, they're going to become a passer. That's how I communicate it to them. So they will present their arms like ready to pass the ball. Again, Hazel will show you this today. So just write down your notes. So a 3-step knee drop, that's kind of the primary move that we use to teach short plays. Why do we choose that as opposed to like them running and getting their feet balanced or something different? Because with the 3-step knee drop, you have to track the ball almost perfectly to be able to get it in front of your platform. So again, like, it really helps athletes with being able to track really well, as opposed to feel like, oh, I could just run through, you know, if I'm kind of in front of the ball, or I could just dive if I didn't make it. Like, so many coaches get frustrated because their kids dive too much or they like don't dive enough, right? So the 3-step knee drop is the perfect like intro move where they're learning how to get low and get down and run, but they don't have to do anything crazy yet. So the final move that we talked about that we go over today in primary stuff is the overhand face pass. For girls especially, this is not used as frequently, but I believe it's a very important skill to train for emergencies. A lot of that palette that we talked about at the beginning, which is the difference between like passing perfect, passing medium, and then avoiding out of system passes, is yes, of course you want to take care of the easy serves and the like, hey, I see these serves all the time serves. But the way you really become an elite passer is being able to pass really good serves, right? It's like most people can pass 3 balls eventually. Most people can pass like average serves, but what separates a good libero, or Paul, to go to your point, like what can make somebody like a Hazel who goes from I'm not a Division I libero to I'm a Division I libero is, okay, when some of the better kids are serving in club or school or whatever, can I make those passes? Am I like a kid who doesn't get aced like everybody else or doesn't shank like everybody else? Can I make those passes? So having the overhand face pass and confidence with that is like one extra thing that's going to help you avoid getting abused, you know, as a service sector. So I don't spend a lot of time on it. I probably spend 2.5 minutes in a 50-minute session on it. But if you do that once a week for a really long time, it makes a really big difference. So that is feet. Any questions thus far as it pertains to feet? I'll give you guys about 10 seconds if you're thinking of anything or want to type anything. Bam. Okay. So getting into arms briefly, here are the different kind of things to go, and then we're going to take you guys on the court so you can get some visuals. So with arms, if you guys want to take down some notes, I always start everybody with the one arm contact. When it's a dig, AKA somebody's hitting the ball, a hitter, I'll call it the one arm dig. When it's for serve receive, I'll call it the one arm pass. In serve receive, we are not ever in a game or like a live practice ever trying to pass the ball with one arm for clarity. The one arm training is utilized for 2 reasons, if you guys want to write this down. Number 1, emergency situations in defense, being able to feel confident about using one arm. Number 2 is trying to create mastery of touch. So the old concept goes, if you can become a good passer or toucher of the ball with one arm, imagine what you could do with 2. Right? So every time I ever work with my athletes, they always, and Hazel and Lynn and everybody else can like attest to this, they've probably never seen an athlete in the last 2 years who doesn't start the session with like some type of one arm contact, even if it's literally 10 seconds, because it's a mentality of feeling comfortable with one limb. If you get in those emergencies, you're not going to panic, you're not going to stress, you're going to feel confident, but it's also going to make your 2 arm touches a lot better. So how to engage the one arm contact? 3 things. We want to make sure, 1, the athlete has their thumb back. The reason we want the thumb back is that exposes the largest surface area on the arm. So we don't want them passing with the skinny part of their arm. We want them to pass the largest surface area, the meat, and we want that angle to be up, diagonally forward and up. So that's why the thumb is back. So if you're ever talking to athletes about how they set up their hands, we want the thumb back. The second thing is trying to make sure we understand the difference between a swing and a jab. So just like in boxing, a swing is a full motion, a jab is a short motion. So we want to try to avoid athletes swinging. So the way that I communicate that is I want them to try to keep their move under 3 inches. So once they get past 3 inches, to me, that becomes a swing, which ups the percentages of them having a missed contact. The more movement they have, the more balls hit unideal areas. The shorter the movement, the more consistent the movement. It works that way in all things. So we want to try to make that motion 3 inches or less. Okay, so Chris, how do they get the height on the ball? They want to gain the energy from 2 places, their shoulder, their tricep, and their wrist. If I said 2 places, 3 places. Shoulder, tricep, wrist. So when they're making that 2 to 1 to 3 inch jab motion, they want the energy coming from the tricep, the shoulder, and the wrist. If they can flex those, the ball should be able to go high enough. And a lot of times I'll demo, which I'll do for you guys, to kids, like I can make a ball go to the ceiling or I can make a ball go 2 inches with the same exact motion based on the energy that I'm utilizing in those 2 areas. So we'll show you that. How to transition into a platform and how to use the one arm dig. So one arm dig, you start them off in a stance, which we'll communicate the stance right now. The generic stance is 18 inches between their ankles. They're gonna have their wrists 6 inches outside of their knees. And then they're going to have a subtle bend in their elbow, literally like a breath of air behind their elbow. And then they're going to have their shoulders over knees and their knees over their toes in a 35% bend. So we talk about bending in percentages so that athletes don't have any kind of question of just you saying, get lower, get higher, get lower, get higher. It helps them be able to conceptualize it when you're not around. Okay, 35%, that's like a little higher than like a 90-degree bend, right? That's, if my legs are almost straight, I'm not in a 35% bend. So again, Hazel will show you this as we go, but that's like important information. So their stance, 18 inches between their ankles, 35% bend, wrist 6 inches outside of the knees with their thumbs back. That's the generic stance. And then from there, one arm digs, we want to do one arm digs with no steps. So they're just getting confident and comfortable with that motion of getting the ball back to you as a partner or a coach. And then we want to add a single step, pushing from the inner thigh. That step can be lateral, as in sideways, or it can be diagonally forward. We do not, for now, even though it's serve receive, want them to open up and step when we're first training it, because it's really a defensive move more than anything else, the one arm dig. And then as they progress, we'll build it on a full platform. So this is the final thing we're going to talk about before we get into actually showing you guys some live on court stuff. So the full platform, how to shape it. So different people use different stuff. Some people do like pancake squeeze kind of thing, like 2 flat hands and then put the thumb pads together. Some people do like a closed fist and then wrap a palm around it. The most important thing that I talk to athletes about is getting their thumb pads together. So these are thumb pads right here. So we want to try to make sure whether they choose this or they choose this or they choose some other random kind of stuff, their thumb pads are together. So I prefer a pretty solid platform that can't break apart. So if you're a coach, try to like gently pull their platform apart. If it breaks easily, then that's not a good platform. So we want it to be able to be firm. If somebody tries to break it, like Hazel tries to pull my hands apart here, like they're not gonna pull apart because I'm like grabbing my palms. With the thumb pads being even is most important. If you see people who have puzzle piece, like overlap thumb pads like that, that's not good. That creates some inconsistency. And if they have, some people like to have these like gaps in their thumbs where they do stuff like this. I really implore them to squeeze and close that thumb pads together. It just makes for a tighter, more consistent touch. So thumb pads together, and then you want them to lock their elbows and get them as close as possible. So some people have the Karshkarai platform that like literally touches and it's like 2 2x4s. It's like this perfect thing. I don't have that. So whether their elbows touch or not, like my elbows don't touch when I create a platform, but I consider myself a pretty good passer. It's all about equilibrium. So you want them to get their elbows as close as possible. So if you see with a platform like this, tell them they need to round their shoulders. So like squeeze their chest and shoulders together to try to create less space. And then they need to flare out their triceps. So from here, they need to flare their arm, lock the elbow. So the most surface area is exposed, and then get the ball in the center of their forearm. So those 2 things, trying to make sure their thumb pads are together and they lock their elbows. That's how we communicate that. Final thing for the overhand face pass, we want them to have 2 inches between their index fingers, 2 inches between their thumbs. We want them to do a 1-inch cushion. So for setting, we talk about a 2-inch cushion. For face pass, we want a 1-inch cushion because the ball is usually coming with pace. And then their wrists and triceps are going to extend. So from there, we want to create like an upward 45-degree angle with the face pass, which Hazel will do. But from here, 2 inches index and thumbs, 1-inch cushion, wrists and arms extend to be able to make the face pass with spread out fingers. So those are all the intro keys that we need to know for the primary pass. Are there any questions on platform, hands, or footwork before we get on the court? Okay, let's do it. All right, so Lynn's gonna help us out by moving the camera around. She'll kind of keep a tab on if you guys have questions and flag us down.
Yeah, let me get flipped. There we go. From behind. And, okay.
All right, so the first thing they're going to show you are those drills I talked about with the footwork. So you don't have to use cones, but if you choose to use cones, here's that plus symbol. All right, so Hazel's gonna start with her toes on the white line. I'd like to give a line for reference. I'm all about like starting in the same spot, athletes getting clean. So where athletes would start generically, I'd like them to start about 20 feet off the net. If you want to get super specific with them, the court is 29.5 feet because it's actually done in meters. It's not done in feet. So a lot of people think it's 30 feet, but it's not. It's 29.5 feet. If you don't feel like being that specific with them, say 20 feet deep, break the court into thirds. Tempo line, another tempo line, and the end line. But 20 feet deep for us in this space is about the basketball free throw line. So 20 feet deep is a good place to start. So from here, so starting our stance, 18 inches between our ankles, her toes straight, shoulders over knees, knees over toes, and then her wrist 6 inches outside of her knees with her thumbs back, fingers spread out. So this would be the generic stance we like. So with a newer kid, I'll have them stand up straight, relax, and I'll say stance. So they get comfortable getting into this stance. Relax, stance. So the 35% bend, she'll show what a 50% bend would look like, 5-0. It's a 90-degree angle, calves to hamstrings. She'll show what a 10% bend looks like. That's almost like no bend, right? So 35%, it's a little bit lower than 25. Okay, fingers spread out. This is the stance. Go ahead and relax. So we'll start with feet first. If I'm working with a new athlete or a new team, if you have a team, it's as simple as put the athletes in rows. Okay, I have 12 kids. I'm going to create 4 rows of 3. I'm going to create 3 rows of 4. Just have them literally like some space, and you work them all together at the same time so they don't have to wait. So in your stance, the first thing we're going to do is go diagonally deep. So she's going to push from her right hand thigh. She's going to open her hip and go deep to the left. So I prefer this front foot does a little bit of twist pivot, right? So they're not going to pick it up. It's just going to pivot. It's a reset. As they step on the ball of the foot, that will twist. One more time. Okay, so they'll end up facing about 45 degrees away with their weight for now even, and then wrists will stay. So they're not putting a platform together. The reason, relax, the reason they're not putting a platform together is because I don't want them to get in the habit of connecting and then potentially swinging. We talk about shaping. So although we're not doing arms yet, make sure they don't put their hands together. So I'm doing that 3 times in the stance. I'm going, okay, deep, there, reset, deep, reset, deep. Boom, so they get that feel. If I really want to train their legs, I don't let them come out of their stance. So if I was doing like a lesson or a camp or a team practice, I would make them stay in their stance the whole time so that their legs get that strength to be able to hold that for a long tournament. Okay, so we're going to go forward to the left now. So she's going to go diagonally forward to the left. Yep, just one single step, just like that. The plant leg is what I call it. Will stay. The right foot will stay. And she's just working on that. If you have athletes who are bouncing, remind them, reset. Forward to the right. Okay, reset, ankles apart a little bit. Yep. We always want to start in that 18. Good. Now we're going to go deep to the right. Hold. 1. Yep. See the space creation. Good. One more. Space creation. Rest. That's the intro. Once we have that, I'll step back like so, and I'll point. So I'll go or okay. Yeah, we're working the reaction. I can do that for whatever amount of time. I can do that for 10 seconds. I can do that for 10 minutes. It depends. All right. 3-step shuffle is next. We want to get that 1, 2, 3. Remember the spacing we talked about. So they start in 18. They build into 24, 6, 18. Let's check it out. So you're going to go deep to the left. Most kids will bounce at first when they do this. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Just like that. And finishing with that 45-degree opener. 1, 2, 3. Every time the lead step. Hazel's going to show you an example of what some kids do where their first step doesn't move, their inside foot goes first. The right, like this. I'll show you. So a lot of kids will do this, what I call a gallop, where their outside foot won't move first. You got to pay attention to that. Don't let them do that. You've got to push from the inner thigh and start with the lead step. One more time, deep to the left. Good. And now we'll go forward to the left. Make this apart a little bit. Forward. 1, 2, 3. Good. Notice the hands stay apart. Upper body's frozen. Last one. Ankles. Good. All right. Now we're going to go forward to the right. Then move. Go. Boom. Reset. Go. Good. All right. Now we're going to go deep to the right. 3-step shuffle. Go. Good. Notice she's keeping the wrists in that same position. Go. Boom. Last one. Good. All right. As I did before, now she's going to have me point. She's going to have to react. If it's a newer kid, they wait. There you go. Good. Reset. Boom. And remember, they should be pushing from the inner thigh to make these moves. They should not be picking up their foot and putting it down, or there's going to be this little pause. We don't want that. We want it quick. We do not want it rushed, but we want it quick. Yep, rest. Next thing, 3-step knee drop. She's going to show you the first step. We always start with the first step. So she's going to go left foot, right arm in this elbow we'll say it. So the goal is, a lot of kids will do this. They'll kind of stand like this, and they'll go, and I'm like, no, stance, real stance. Gotta be legit, okay? So from here, she's gonna go one step, left foot, right arm, that's it. And she's gotta keep that level, reset. That's why my hand on the shoulder. If you feel like it's inappropriate for some of the kids you work with, don't put your hands on them. And Hazel knows I'm not going to hurt her. So boom, like that. Other side. Okay? Ankles apart. Here we go. First step. Yes. Boom. Again. Boom. Last one. Boom. What I'm doing with my hands, I'm making sure she doesn't come up. She just understands to keep that level. Now she's gonna do the first two steps. Left, right. 18 inches. Boom. Here we go. Left, right. 1, 2. Bomb. See the arms. 90 degree. Right there. Here we go. 1, 2. Nice and clean. Going to the right. Go. 1, 2. Yes. Go. 1, 2. Every time. Reposition the hand. Now she's going to complete it. Her inside knee. So getting that to be understood with the athletes. What's inside, what's outside. Left, right, left. The inside knee is going to go on the ground. Here we go. 1, 2, inside knee, and see she pumped her arm with that last one. We want the third one for her to present. So the first two she's pumping, the last one she becomes a passer. Again, going to the left again. So it's pump, passer. Reset. Going to the left one more time. Hands down. 1, 2, hands down. Yep. All right. The reason we want the hands down, relax, is because usually when we're passing the short ball, it's not coming with a lot of pace. Most people don't have the chance to surf from the end line, have it go 40 to 50 miles per hour, and go to the 10-foot line. So we want that platforming to start low, because we're going to have to add energy to the ball because it's not coming that hard. We're going to go to the right. Right, left, right. Yes, beautiful. Notice the inside knee on the ground. One more time. Right, left, right. Hands down. Good. Good. All right. So now I'm going to run her through a palette. I want you to understand this on my team or my group. So I'm going to say one step move. I'm just going to point. So I'll go one step move. Then maybe I do that for 10 seconds, 10 minutes, somewhere in between. Then I'll go 3-step move or 3-step shuffle. And then I'll go 3-step knee drops. And then the next thing we would go over would be the face pass, which can be utilized in all these different sections. So next, platform touches. So we'll start off. If they're beginner, I'll start them on their knees. So we'll just plan like that. On your knees, single. So I don't want their body to be upright. So we get a side angle here, please. I don't want them to have their body upright and be upright like that. I would like for them to sit their butt back about 3 inches from their heels. So if you have a kid whose knees are gonna like hurt or go black, make an adjustment. But I want them to sit back a little bit so they create that shape that would be necessary when they actually pass that V shape from chest to knees. So from here, she's gonna start with your wrist 6 inches outside of her knees. We're just working on getting the ball on the center of the forearm, thumb back. So left arm first, boom, good. And she's just keeping that motion short. Notice there's not a lot of extra motion there, it's short. And if you see a kid, swing a little bit here. If you see a kid with this extra motion, you can do one of two things. You can either give them the feel, or you can give them a range. So say, do not come above the height of your chest, or keep it between your chest and your belly button, or come closer and go here. We're gonna keep it small to my hand. Now, same exact motion, a little higher. Same exact motion, a little higher. Those are ways that you can help that out. Now, right side, okay? We'll do some round of one-arm contact. They're shanking it, like, oh, why is it shanking? Middle of the forearm, okay? They have to point that at your forehead, okay? Thumb back, middle of the forearm. They are not using their palm, they're using the middle of their forearm. After we do some specified, now we'll go a little random. If they're beginner, I'll catch the ball in between. So I'll catch, go random. Left arm, left side, right arm, right side. If they're a little bit more advanced, I'll kind of go quick to test their reaction time. Try to keep it in control. If they're more advanced, gotta keep it in control. All right, now if they're really advanced, I'll go 2-ball series. And they're just having to focus on focus. They're just focusing on focus, trying to see if they can stay locked in. All right, she's standing now. So 18 inches between her ankles. I want her to feel the stance. Okay? One arm contact, no steps. One arm contact, no steps. If it's a beginner kid, I'm taking this slower, more slowly. Newer kid, slow. Okay, rest. Now she's gonna add 1 step, mostly laterally. If I toss it in front of her, she needs to step diagonally forward. 1 step. Notice that other foot stays still. This is not a 2-step move. 1 step. Notice the body control. I'm talking to them about this. I don't just wait to see if they have it naturally or don't. I'm talking to them about controlling their body of the height. Next thing, she's going to be doing a true platform. So again, beginner, back on the knees. Low to middle punch is what we call it when it's an easy free ball. They're going to connect their thumbs with their finger and thumbnails facing the ground, low, and then they'll finish with their arms middle. Okay, so low to middle. Their thumbs should not come above the height of their chest. Okay, here we go. So she'll go low to middle, just like that. Back to me. Straight angles here. Straight angles. If you guys are not writing this down, you should write this down in your workup. This exact workup is what I use with every athlete when I'm doing passing. Now she's going to go outside of body. So her right arm will sweep to the left arm. So from here, the right arm is going to meet over on the left side. We call it sweep. It sweeps across, and then she'll connect low to middle. Okay, if you have kids who are swiveling or bringing their thumbs back around like this, then you place some kind of cone or some kind of marker for them to stay outside of. For example, I might grab something as big as this cone, and I might say, I'm going to put this 3 inches outside of your left knee. When you finish each pass, confirm your thumbs are still outside of on this side of the cone. Okay? So I'll have a shape with no ball first. Yep, and then I'll have a shape with the ball twice. No ball once, with ball twice. Get the ratios. If it's a newer kid, maybe they have to go no ball twice, with ball twice. So they have to go 5 times no ball. More advanced kid, it depends. Okay? Yep, notice every time pause, the thumbs are outside of the cone on purpose because we're working on an outside of body angle. What she should not do, show the swivel here. She should not swivel her arms back to the middle. A lot of kids will do this who are newer. That creates inconsistency on the touch. You want a side outside of body angle. Boom. Just like that, a singular angle. That's how we communicate. This side, arms outside the body, once without the wall. Left arm sweeps across, bam. Right arm, boom. Right arm, boom. Okay, she's standing. Next, we add this in with no ball, or excuse me, with no step. So between the knees, twice, no step. So she's getting the feel. Outside the body, twice, no step. No step. She just needs to feel the arms, no step. Get comfortable, get confident with the arms. Repeat that, repeat that. Add 1 step. Outside the body. To the right. Notice the step right now is lateral. I just want her to get comfortable first before we get crazy. Okay? Because what comes next can be crazy for some kids. Next is she's going to have to make that diagonally deep open step. If you really want to start diagonally forward, you can. I always start with what's most challenging first so that athletes can backtrack into something easier. So we're going to go for about 2 more minutes here. Deep to the left. She's going to go once without the ball. Stance, open, 1 step. Good. Now with the ball, how I communicate this is huge. You need to write this down. Tell them, do not step until the ball has peaked in the air. Because what happens is kids take an early step like this. Step like right away, step right away. They mistrack it. They track it inappropriately and they have to take another step or recovery step. So rather than wait and see it and then go, rather than step early and have to step again. So she's gonna wait. Once it peaks, she can step and then pass. It feels like they're waiting for a day, but it works out. Deep to the right. Good. Deep to the right. She's going to go forward to the left. Yes. A lot of kids will false step with this one right here. Forward to the right. Boom. Next thing that happens, 3-step shuffle, deep to the left, once without the ball. Deep, yeah. Boom. With the ball. Yes. Yes. Notice she's still playing at the height of her belly button. What most kids do is they get uncomfortable and want to stand and play while it's high. Talk to them about letting it come down to the height of their belly button. Let it come down. Let the ball come down to the height of the belly button, because that's where your percentages will be the best. All right, she's gonna go deep to the right, okay? Boom. Just like that. Show them what not to do, that high. We don't want that. That's a shooting pass, inconsistent, no balance. We want it low, height of the belly button, just like that. Notice the bend in the legs on the finish. Boom. Forward to the left. Good. And we would go forward to the right. Last thing I'm going to show you, this is the hardest thing for kids, when you go random. So, of course, you put them in situations where it's staged, you know where the ball's going to be. You got to have some reps where they go random, and this is where it's most tough. So, with the 1-step move, I'm going to go random anyway. Like that, you see the ball step? It's tough. So, you got to wait. Random anyway. It's tough. 3-step move, random. See the ball step? If you guys are watching the feet, watch the feet. Here we go. All right. So for this first session, that's it in terms of footwork, arms and hands, and then IQ. So you want to build these things as you go. For right now, what questions do you guys have, if any? Any questions? Let's see. Can I mute, please? Okay. Can everybody hear me? All good? Okay, beautiful. Well, that was the intro. So as we go, we'll build it into, okay, how do we start putting this stuff over the net? How do we play against serves? How do we set up serve receive? How do we choose seams? All that will be covered in this course. On the in-between time, Paul has our contact. So we want you guys to keep this contact, keep your notes, start building it into what you're doing so we can get to a new level. I'm about to start on the court here at CPA facility. So Lynn will close you guys up. Thank you. I'll see you next time.